Welcome back to The Joy Report, a podcast dedicated to sharing climate stories and solutions through the lens of intersectionality and optimism. If you're in the Northern Hemisphere and listening to this episode around the time of its release, it's officially almost springtime, a season all about renewal and restoration and new beginnings that officially begins with the vernal or spring equinox on March 20th. Given the current state of the world, I thought now might be a good time to explore the importance of living more aligned, intentional lives so that we can show up for our communities and the world in the most engaged and thoughtful ways possible. Living in harmony with nature and living a life led by love are both muscles that must be practiced, as well as acts of resistance in today's fast-paced and capitalist society. I'm your host, Ariel V. King. On this episode, we're talking about the spring equinox, which some people consider the real new year. To explore this and so much more, I've invited the brilliant Jessica Lanyadoo, an astrologer, psychic medium, and animal communicator to the show. Jessica, welcome to The Joy Report.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be having this conversation. And
Me
as
too.
a triple Capricorn and card carrying naysayer, so I just love that I get to have a joyful conversation with you. For some of us, it's like, it takes a lot of practice and intention to
Totally.
find that optimism. And I
Yeah.
represent the negative Nancy's.
Oh, I think as much negativity as there is in the world, there is equal amounts, if not more, things to be grateful for, excited about, and joyful about. So, yeah, I'm super excited to have this conversation with you. And so, we start every episode by asking our guest, how have you been sustaining your joy lately?
Mm. Honestly, it's the trees. It's the trees. I like less than a year and a half ago, I moved from spent my whole life in cities, and now I'm
Hmm.
living in a rural, like semi-rural, but rural place. And
Yeah.
I am right now looking out my window at trees. Just I have been spending more time with trees than I've ever spent and more time on beaches than I've ever
Oh, that
spent. Just
sounds
like,
amazing.
yeah, it's been really just rejuvenating, and for the last almost 2 years, I've been really focused on connecting not only to trees, but to their roots. You know how trees talk to each other through
Oh,
their
yes,
roots? I
absolutely.
I mean, to me, that is like I've been really trying to tap in energetically and be connected in that way because there's so much on the surface that is so chaotic and so stressful.
Yeah.
But like the way that trees hold each other through their roots, I want more of that. Like I've really
Yes.
been tapping into that and it's been powerful and life affirming.
Oh, that is so brilliant and so wonderful. And yeah, I mean, when trees do intermingle, they get to live longer, they get to
Yeah.
grow stronger. And it's just such a beautiful metaphor for what we're up to right now or what's required of us right now. So
Yeah.
I love that. And I would love to just also hear some more about you. So you describe yourself as a humanistic astrologer. What is humanistic astrology?
Mm. So there's like really formal definitions of humanistic astrology, but
Hmm.
I'll just tell you how I define it. Astrology, it's a tool. It's a
Sure.
system of understanding nature and our place within it.
Hmm.
And humanistic astrology is kind of this way of holding the tool where the human is centered. So it's much like harm reduction approach,
Okay.
meeting people where they're at and navigating based on what they can and want to do instead of centering myself as the astrologer on high, which I think can happen with astrology,
Mhm.
or centering the tool, like what is technically meant to happen. I think that's also like a way that a lot of astrologers use astrology, or a lot of astrology fans use astrology.
Yeah.
Humanistic astrology centers your humanity and your experience as a human, contextual to a myriad of factors, astrological and non astrological.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That is super helpful.
Yeah, it's
And
very grounding to
yeah,
get to
like,
know
yeah,
what
like,
the hell
that's
I mean when
really,
I say it.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's super helpful grounding. And so you already mentioned some of them, but what do you think are some of the main functions of astrology, in your
Mm.
opinion?
So, astrology's, the way I always say it is it's kind of like I can give you a hammer.
Hmm.
And with that hammer, you could take a nail and like really like make a house or a bench or something. Or
Sure.
you could break someone's car window, or you can beat up someone you're mad at. You could do a lot of
Mhm.
things with a hammer,
You
right?
can, yeah.
You I mean, I don't wanna, again, get
I mean, it's
positive here.
possible. It's all possible,
It's
right?
all possible, exactly.
Yeah.
And similarly with astrology, there's a lot of things you can do with the tool.
Yeah,
Some of those things are destructive. A lot of those things are really constructive, and then there's some things that are like, somewhere in the middle.
sure.
Um, the way that I use astrology as an astrologer is as a tool for understanding people in the world,
Okay.
understanding how we come to be as we are, the resources and challenges we have inherent to our nature and in our lived experience. My job as a humanistic astrologer is also to understand the context to that experience. So, somebody of a different age who has different disabilities or has a different gender or race or whatever is going to have a different context to their experience of their birth chart. So
Sure.
as a humanistic astrologer, I'm applying that to understand who you are, how you got here, and how to help you to navigate to becoming who you want to be or going where you want to go. And then there's something called mundane astrology, which is the astrology of events,
Mm,
whether it's like understanding the life of your podcast or understanding the life of a nation
yeah.
or something like that. And I also practice mundane astrology as a way to help people who are engaged in the world, who want to make the world a better place, kind of pace themselves and navigate through the long kind of road ahead, regardless of what it is, right? It's like it's always kind
Okay.
of a long road ahead. So yeah,
Sure.
yeah,
Okay. Well, and that sounds like using a interdisciplinary, intersectional approach to understanding the ways that one's birth chart will dictate so
yeah,
many different factors. So that makes a lot of sense.
yeah,
And so you're also a psychic medium and an animal communicator, which is such a fascinating combination of titles and modalities and things happening. So I'm just curious, can you recall the first time that you realized your gifts as either a medium or an animal communicator or both?
yeah. So it was around the same time that I
Okay.
realized those 2 things, and they're very different. So mediumship is being able to talk to dead people, and
Mhm.
animal communication is pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
And I was in my very late 20s, my early 30s when I was a full-time astrologer. So I was a consulting astrologer. I met with clients all day long, every day.
Mhm.
And in the course of my sessions, sometimes dead people would come up. And
Mm.
I was like, this is not real. No way. No, 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 no. And then eventually I started having enough experiences with people where I would be like, "Listen, I don't really think I can do this, but this is kind of what I'm hearing. This is kind of what I'm
Yeah.
seeing." And they'd be like, "Why, yes." And then I would just get all this validation. And so I
Wow.
had this unique experience because I was already a professional astrologer
Sure.
of being able to kind of like test it out. And then the animal communication happened differently.
Okay.
I had this studio. It was like classic in San Francisco, it's like you walk in and it's a storefront, but in the back is an apartment,
Mhm.
and I lived with these 2 wonderful cats, and one of them cared 0% about what I was doing 100% of the time. She was like, "Live
Yeah.
your life." But my other cat, he was really interested in what I was doing, he wanted to work with me, and so every morning I would sit at my little computer and I would do my emails and I would do my like admin work and I would put on water for coffee, and then I would forget and I would like burn the water. You can burn water for anyone who thinks you can. You can. And so I would do this and I was just like doing this for a period of time. And then eventually my cat, his name was Cougar, he's now passed, was
Oh.
like, "Oh, your water's boiling." And I'd be like, "Oh shit, my water's boiling." So I'd go and I'd get my water, and after a few days, I was like, "Do I think my cat's telling me that the water's boiling? That's insane. That can't
Yeah.
be possibly true." And so I started saying to him, and the way you communicate with animals is very simple. You just show them pictures with your mind. So I would say to him, "Okay, if you can understand me, jump over here, over there, and then come and sit on my lap, but like take this route." And he would do it. And I
Wow.
was like, "Oh my." And so through this process, I started to realize I was actually like back and forth like you and I are communicating with him.
Mhm.
And of this was again, like I said, happening at the time where there was like all of a sudden a lot of dead people in my life, and
Yeah.
it was a lot all at once. And that said, it came in handy because as I was consulting with clients, I would oftentimes like be talking to somebody and we'd kind of hit a wall. Like maybe the person was like, oh, I don't know, I'm not sure if this makes sense. And I would be like, well, do you have an animal at home? And they'd be like, oh, yeah, I have a cat or I have a dog. And then I would just talk to them, and the
Mm.
pet would narc on the human and tell me what I needed
Wow.
to know. And
Wow.
so I started like integrating animal communication, not just for when clients came in being like, will you talk to my dog,
Mhm.
but also as a way to better understand the person, because we are very much ourselves in front of our animal friends. For better
So
or worse, they
true.
get it. They are paying
Wow.
attention. Yeah.
No, they are.
Yes.
And so it sounds like astrology was first. And so
Yes.
I'm curious what drew you to astrology initially.
Mm. I always was really interested in astrology. Like, I remember sitting on Hot Wheels. Do you know what I mean by Hot Wheels? I don't know if they're still a relevant thing.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
I remember sitting on Hot Wheels. I had to have been under the age of 7, thinking to myself, I'm a Capricorn, and that means I'm keeping my wisdom teeth. And I'm in my 50s and I have all of my wisdom teeth. And how did
Amazing.
I know at
Yeah,
that little age that Capricorn governs teeth or
yeah.
wisdom? But it does. Um,
Wow.
so I was always really interested in astrology, and I got my first astrology book for my 12th birthday. And then I went to I'm from Montreal, Quebec,
Mhm.
and I went to an alternative CEGEP. We have a different school system there. So high school goes till grade 11, and then there's a 2-year government funded like college program that you can take. I know, it's
Very
very
cool.
humane. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was like
very
60 bucks a
humane,
semester. It
exactly.
was very cheap, and it was like you could figure out what you would wanna do in university by
Wow.
going to the school. It was called the New School, but it's not related to the American New School.
Got
Anyways, I went to the New School of Dawson College, and when I was there, happened to have been the 2 semesters when the Jungian psychologist from the main college went to the alternative college and taught an introduction to astrology from a Jungian perspective, and then the
Whoa.
next semester, intermediate astrology from a Jungian perspective. So I
Okay.
just had, like, really lucky timing that I got this formal college level education of astrology for a year in a really small group from a highly skilled astrologer who had a Jungian kind of like deeply psychological perspective.
Mhm.
And then I would say once I graduated, but I didn't graduate because I'm a terrible student. But once I like was supposed to graduate,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
I had realized I was queer at this point, and I was like, "I guess I'm moving to San Francisco," because at that time, this was in the like, it was in the early mid 1990s.
Okay.
It was the only place you could go to be,
Sure.
like, gay and astrologer, so
Yeah.
I went to astrology nope, I went to San Francisco to be a professional lesbian and astrologer, and that's what I did.
Amazing.
It was
It's so
it
wow,
was
I love
like
that, I love that. So something that I found while I was stalking you on the internet was that you share that your goal is to help people help themselves by cultivating self-understanding, strategies for living well, and emotional intelligence. Would you just
Mhm.
be able to say a little bit more about
Yeah,
what that means for you?
yeah. I love saying more about that.
Great.
I listen, I've been a professional astrologer and in the world of astrologers for decades now, and I think a lot of times we get lost in the interesting parts of astrology. We're like, "Oh, my sun is in this and my moon is in that, and this means that."
Mhm.
That stuff's great, it's good. But what I'm really motivated around is helping people cultivate emotional intelligence, because when you have emotional intelligence, you can see something like, oh, I don't know, the climate catastrophe,
Yeah.
and resource yourself. Accept where you're at, what you can control, what you can't control, and to tend to the emotional welfare of not just you and your own needs, but dynamically in relationship with other people. And that empowers us to stay with the things that are important to us. As we age, it becomes more and more tempting to abandon the things that we truly care about, and you see this within activist circles, right? It's like a lot of
Yeah.
young people, and
Mhm.
it's not because of a change in values. It's because of emotional strain.
Mm.
And this is why, and this is like a whole other can of worms maybe, but like so much of what we do in the modern world on social media in particular is talk about gens, right? Like boomers and millennials and Gen X
Sure.
and alpha.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of utility to that. But as an astrologer and an older person, I tend to find that all gens all gens, as
Mhm.
you age, if you don't cultivate emotional resiliency, go the way of insert whichever generation you want to criticize because
Sure.
it's about aging. And so
Yeah.
being able to resource yourself, whether it's through tools of psychology or spirituality or astrology, that's immaterial to me. What's important is being able to recognize I'm having an emotion right now.
Yeah.
And what do I need to do to engage with that emotion in a healthy way? Oh,
Mhm.
wait, I'm actually really activated right now. I can't even access my emotions because my activation is so high. How do I need to engage with my activation so I can access my emotions, so I can assess the situation and not deal with it in a reactionary way, but an intentional way? And
Mhm.
we all have a different path to that, and different parts of ourselves are gonna need different resources and
Of
adapt
course.
at different paces, but
Yeah.
my work is focused on trying to help people locate those truths for themselves and not need external tools necessarily. I mean, we all need external tools,
Of
please, let's all
course.
call it
Yeah.
tool.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but it's not just through astrology, it's through self-resourcing, and that can be done whether you hate astrology or you love it, is really
Sure.
important. Because I get asked a lot, "What do you say to people who don't like astrology?" And I just say, like, "Okay, cool." You don't have to like,
Right.
"Yeah, I don't like a lot of things." Like, it doesn't mean
Yeah.
anything. As long as we're working on ourselves, use tools that help, that's the move as far as I'm concerned.
Definitely. And I
Yeah.
think being well resourced allows you to see the world as it is and not look away. And
Yes.
I think that is so imperative right now
Yeah.
and always, but I feel like especially right now. Uh,
Agreed.
yeah. And I think that's also I, I don't know. I think we sometimes can fall into a trap of believing in this like toxic positivity trope of like, okay, if we just turn away, pretend that things aren't happening, and we just focus on the things that are happening right in front of us, then perhaps we can just pretend that the other things don't exist. And that simply is not the case. And something that we talk about a lot here on the podcast is just this idea of climate optimism, which is grounded in reality and an understanding that the world is a mess right now, but there is an opportunity for us to create something better and solutions already exist.
Yeah.
And then also this term radical imagination, right? Like just seeing the world as it is and believing that something better is possible and working towards that better world. So what I'm hearing is that astrology or any other tool is an opportunity for us to look inward, make sure that we are full so that we can show up in movements as our best selves,
If I could
and
snap, I'd
stay
be
in
snapping.
movements.
If I could snap, I'd be snapping in agreement, but I have no skill set. I can't
Oh
snap. I'm so
no.
sorry. It's a
It's
really
okay.
embarrassing deficit in my nature. I cannot snap. I've tried
It's
for years.
okay. It's
Thank you.
okay.
Thank you. It's
No,
terrible.
save
Terrible.
space. No.
Thank you. Thank you. But yeah, 500%.
Yeah.
I think that you like really touch on something that is so hard for so many of us. And I think it's hard for all of us
Yeah.
some of the time at least, which is like being realistic about where things are at
Mhm.
and maintaining a vision for the future that's different than what's happening now and being
Yeah.
optimistic. It is really it's hard, and again, I think it gets harder as you age.
Sure.
It gets harder as you age because you see more and more cycles pass and you're like, "Oh my god, I thought we'd move a mile and
Yeah, I
we've moved an
saw this
inch."
already.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I bet. And
I'm
and
sure.
it's really like a it's again, this is where it's like having what is that? It's like there's a 7 generation mode. Have you heard about
Mm.
this?
Yes.
I don't remember
Mhm.
where it comes from, but being able to hold space, not just for the moment we're in or the crisis we face or the opportunity we face, but
Yeah.
instead this larger pattern. And this is where astrology is really useful because if we understand ourselves as people on a planet that are directly influenced by other planets, then the crushing urgency that we feel to get everything fixed right away or get everything handled right away, it can kind of ease because there's a larger context to our existence and to the planet's resiliency.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And that seventh generation principle is an indigenous philosophy. And so it's
Thank
this,
you.
yeah, it's this belief that, thinking about the generations before you and seven generations after you. And so just the act of being an ancestor, a future ancestor, and living your life in a way that is being a good future ancestor, but also keeping in mind all of those who have come before you. So yeah, and that's so just deeply connected to all the things we're talking about so
All the
far.
things, all the things. Thank you
Um,
for properly saying. So it's
of
like, I know it's like
course. No,
in a
exactly.
shelf of my brain, but
Yes.
file. Yes. Thank you,
No,
thank you,
of
thank you.
course, of course. And so, what can astrology teach us about the Earth?
You know, I
Mhm.
mean, so much. And this is where, like,
Yeah,
a lot of times I think people don't really, because people don't, like, learn astrology, we, like, consume astrology like
sure.
so many other things.
Yeah.
It's when you think about so, okay, there's so many ways I could answer your question, but I'm gonna answer it this way. So,
Okay.
everybody knows at least their sun sign. Most people know their rising and their moon as well.
Hmm.
When you think about the zodiac signs themselves, they speak to seasons. That's
Yeah.
literally what they articulate.
Hmm.
Like Leo is fixed fire. It's
Yeah.
the summer. It's
Mhm.
hot, right?
Yeah.
Whereas Aries, we're hanging out here, right about to be the equinox for Aries season, it's
Yeah.
cardinal Aries. So it's the cardinal zodiac signs are the changing of seasons, all of them. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's like a motility to that. There's like a swiftness of moving, whereas those fixed signs are the center of a season.
Yeah.
And the center of the season is like, I know how it's done. You don't have to explain to me how it's done. They do it my way, it'll be fine.
Right.
And then there's our mutable zodiac signs, and those mutable zodiac signs are when things are in transition. It's
Mm.
not summer and it's not fall. It's not summer and it's not spring. So
Yeah.
there's a way that just looking at the zodiac signs gives us an understanding of not just how the earth itself and the seasons function, but also how energy is meant to function in our lives and in ourselves. There is a season for being rigid. There is a
Mm.
season for being adaptable. And there
Yeah.
is a season for being like, it's got to get done. Let's just make a move. Right.
Hmm.
But we're not always in any one of those seasons. We
Right.
put so much pressure on ourselves to act in certain ways or the same way all the time. And it's just not realistic. And so, again, like there's so many ways I could have answered that question, but my hope is that because most people understand what zodiac signs are, and it's not just about your sun sign, it's about understanding that all 12 of the zodiac signs are in your birth chart
Right.
and where they fall in your nature articulates how you flow, how like the energy inside of you flows. And the energy inside of you is directly connected to this earth and the universe that we live inside of or in relationship to. And for me, that's really it is spiritual, but it's also very practical.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
for me anyways. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's just an opportunity to live in accordance with the changing of the seasons and with the way that the earth changes with seasons. And so, perfect segue into us talking about the spring equinox. And so, can you just explain to our listeners what is the spring equinox?
Sure. So
Yeah.
the equinoxes in general are when the sun moves into a cardinal zodiac sign. So the
Hmm.
spring equinox is when the sun moves at 0 degrees of Aries. There's a way that, first of all, it's like very trackable through the tool of astrology.
Right.
The spring or vernal equinox is when day and night are meant to be equal, where now we have the same length of the day and the night.
Yeah.
But really, the energetics of it from an astrological viewpoint
Mhm.
are about renewal. It's a time for planting seeds,
Yeah.
initiating action, right? We're in our sun and Aries moment. It's growing, but it's growing actively moving into something.
Mm.
Aries is fire, and it is all about it's like the fire you cook with when it's well maintained, right? So
Yeah.
being intentional about what you call into your life, what you plant in the ground, and also where the sun is hitting. We were chatting about the sun and light before
Yeah.
we started recording, and like
Yeah.
that's so on point. I didn't even realize it until this moment. for a conversation about the equinox because it's really a time when we open up to light and when the light has so much more of an active role in our developments. And that can be held really physically if you're a gardener or farmer, and it can be held really metaphorically for our psyches and our emotions and our spiritual practices. So, not sure if that fully answered your question, but that's like a good amuse bouche.
Yeah, no, it answered my question. And I don't know. I love hearing good things about Aries as an Aries myself.
Are
But
you an Aries? Of course
I
you are an
am.
Aries.
Yeah, I am. I'm an Aries sun and I also have an Aries stellium. So
Well, shit.
we're in
So,
there.
okay,
Yeah.
speaking of that, I have pulled up the equinox chart just for the
Okay.
record,
Oh,
okay?
great.
This equinox, the sun is sitting, of course, at 0 degrees and 0 minutes of Aries,
Hmm.
and it is sitting on top of Neptune and Saturn. And so there's this larger indication, this equinox, of grappling with impossible situations,
Mm,
moral quandaries that don't have a clear answer, or
yeah.
structural quandaries that don't have a perfectly, well paved path. So much of the astrology of this year with Neptune and Saturn both in Aries and so close to each other
Hmm.
is about navigating fear and anxiety and coming up with sustainable earth-based, grounded or grounding, mechanisms that are not divorced from spirituality, but reflective of our spirituality.
Mm,
And when some people hear spirituality, they're like, "I don't even know what that means." And if you're one of those people, think of it as emotional. And if you're somebody who's more woo or more spiritual, then I give you no notes. But
yeah.
the equinox is really going to kind of bring something up for us as a collective about sustainability.
Mm,
And as we face all manner of things that are simply not sustainable in our world, the kind of other part of this Aries bomb in our equinox chart
yeah.
is we also have a Venus Moon Chiron conjunction in Aries. And this is, yeah, it's a lot of
I'm like,
Aries
that
in
sounds like so many things.
it's
Yeah.
so many things. It is so many things. And what it really is, an invitation to do
Hmm.
is to become emotionally aligned with one's value system. What do you
Mm,
actually value? And to ask ourselves, are we in right relationship to it? So not is it perfect, not is it solved, but are you in right relationship to your value system? And letting our fears or uncertainties guide us, I think that there's a way that we talk about like fear is a bad thing and fear can be a bad thing, but
sure.
I am convicted that it is an instinct that can keep you safe if
Mm,
you have a healthy relationship to it. So we're back to
sure.
my emotional intelligence shtick,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So much of this equinox is about setting intentions, planting seeds, moving forward with ambiguity and in alignment with our values and principles. And that can play out in your love life or in your activism or in your self care journey or any other place.
Yeah.
It's really just about remembering to not only react, but instead to be intentional and to initiate with the equinox. That's like my little like astrology hot take for you.
Yeah. And so, are there any maybe like spring equinox rituals or practices that you would suggest for our audience given all of
Mm,
that?
yeah. So, in terms of rituals and practices, how woo woo is your audience? Let me start with that.
I think we'll see after
We'll
this
find
episode goes live. But
Yeah, you will.
I think in general, people who listen to this podcast are curious. And so I
Okay.
would say hearts and minds are open. And if they
Okay,
don't love
great.
it, they don't have to finish the episode, but
Great.
that's
They're
where we're
not gonna
at.
get
Yeah.
angry. Okay,
Yeah.
cool, 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 cool.
Yeah.
So, here's the thing about ritual. Ritual can be done in a super woo-woo way, and it can also be done in this way that I'm going to share.
Hmm.
Ritual is simply an intention, a motivation, and an action you do on purpose and
Okay.
with repetition, right?
Love
So
that.
ritual, it includes repetition.
Hmm.
This equinox is a good time for doing candle work. Now, when I say candle work, to me, that's like a very accessible way of working with energy, because what you can do is get yourself a candle. So I have one right here. I'll just grab it. You would
Okay.
ideally want one that's not mainly burned down, but like one of these nice candles. You
Yeah.
can get any kind of candle. And what you do is you get really intentional about what you want to call in, what you want to cultivate, what you want to be mindful about.
Mhm.
And then you take, like, I like to take a pen that doesn't work or a pencil and then write words in multiples of 9. So let's say you wanted to pull in the word love, and love is a big word.
Sure.
Let's not be
Yeah.
too simplistic. How about compatibility?
There
That's
we
a
go.
long word to carve into a candle, but this is messy.
Yeah.
Love is messy. So you would carve in a word in multiples of 9 and then light your candle, let it burn down. That's one way that you can work with energy to set intentions. That's a
Okay.
little woo.
Mhm.
Another thing a person can do if they are feeling called to it is to simply ask themselves, what am I being intentional about? How does it reflect my values? And how do I feel about it?
Mm.
And by sitting with this information, maybe doing some journaling, maybe talking to like your friends about it, by sitting with these questions and grappling with the energy and the emotion in them, you are ritualistically engaging with the energy on purpose. And
Mm.
that's really what it's all about. So you can, get super woo woo like I like to do, but that's not the
Yeah.
only way of engaging with ritual. And
Right.
to that end, I'll say any thought, any habit that we return to over and over again is a ritual. And so if you hear that and you're like, "Uh-oh, I'm like ritualistically doom scrolling. I'm ritualistically doing this thing
Uh-oh.
that makes me unhappy."
Yeah.
Setting your intention, shifting your behavior so that what you do on purpose can be
Mm.
really impactful anytime, but certainly at a time like the equinox where the energy is like rich.
Yeah. And if people are feeling directionless or uncertain about their values, do you have
Yeah.
any suggestions on some methods for exploration and, yeah, discovery on that
Yeah.
front?
It's weird, so many people, and especially younger people,
Mhm.
tell me that they have a real confused relationship to the concept of values, and I think it's because the Christian right has stolen the word values and been like they're really,
Yeah,
like, focused on that word.
totally.
Um, Values from an astrological perspective are governed by Venus, which is, like, the woman symbol, right?
Uh-huh.
Venus is related to values because it governs relationships.
Mhm.
So the people we choose to keep in our lives, the things that we do with them, that reflects your values. Venus also governs money, the
Okay.
value we place on things. So like, I value glasses a lot. Like, I have so many glasses, seeing glasses, you know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
value them a lot. And so there's a lot of things I won't spend money on,
Mhm.
or I'll be like, "That's asking a lot of me." But when I see glasses, I'm like, "But do I love them? Do I have that color
Yeah.
already?" I
Yeah.
value the thing I wear on my face that helps me see, right?
Mhm.
So money reflects your values. How you spend it, who you spend it with reflects your values, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
Venus also shows us that diplomacy, in other words, how authentic you are versus how accommodating you are,
Mm.
those reflect your values. And
Okay.
so when we strive to understand our Venus placement, so not just the zodiac sign that Venus is in, but the house it's in and any natal aspects we have to our Venus, we
Mhm.
start to get a lot of layers of data about our individual value system. And if you're like, I don't really get what values are, my way of doing it is like play with Venus in the birth chart, like do some research into what Venus means in your chart.
Yeah.
And another trick that I have, which is not at all astrological, is whenever I'm struggling with the concept of a word that's kind of like values, where you're like, well, it's kind of right there. I look it up in multiple different languages and
Yeah.
look at the definition in different languages.
Love
It's
that.
very Virgonian. I don't have any Virgo in me, but like for me, that really helps because different languages hold the concept of values or love or hate or anything else in a way that is meaningfully, maybe subtly, but meaningfully different. And it's worth expanding the worldview as we wait, kind of like figure out how to turn inside and get more nuanced in our relationship to ourselves.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, as a word nerd, I think I
You're a
love
word
that
nerd.
concept. Yeah.
Have you ever
Yeah.
done that?
I have. I do it every once in a while, but I'm usually just looking at like the root word and like where it derives from because that usually gives like a clear direction. But I love
Mhm.
the idea of investigating other languages to
Yes.
really get like more color on onto the subject. So I
Yeah.
absolutely love that. So what might the collective be noticing around the time of this spring equinox, given all the other things happening astrologically right now?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I wish I had a better thing to say to you out the
It's
gate.
okay. It's
Oh,
okay.
sorry. I'm gonna just apologize. Like, the depth of my apology, I hope you can feel the heartbreak in
Oh,
my
I
apology
do. I
before I
do.
answer your question.
Uh-oh.
Fucking terrible. I'm sorry, the
Oh,
astrology of this period is really challenging.
yeah.
It's confronting, and it's inherently not stable.
Mm,
And because of the Neptune-Saturn conjunction that we are undergoing,
yeah.
there is this feeling of destabilization and fear or anxiety that
Mm,
the collective is feeling, not just people in one city or in one state, but globally.
yeah.
And we have some really, Pluto and Uranus are doing some kind of like sweet little supportive things to our Neptune, Saturn.
Mhm.
But instead of that showing up as us making major progress reliably, what's happening is we're seeing it show up as apathy in a lot of people. It's
Mm,
like, "Oh, I really care," but, like, liking a comment's enough, right? "Oh, I really care," but talking about it with my friends is as far as I can go.
yeah.
And this is where we are globally, not just one group of people, not just one country, we are globally adapting with technology and the impact it has on our humanity. This is reflected in the astrology in a major way.
Wow.
And I think that this moment of the equinox, um, just as we're coming out of eclipse season and Mercury retrograde season, this moment is one where some things are going to come in more sharp like focus. We're gonna be able to see some things more clearly, but
Yeah.
that doesn't mean we can see ourselves more clearly.
Interesting.
And so my kind of like important take here is hold spaciousness for yourself, right? Like make sure that we don't use the worst parts of the tools of patriarchy and white
Mhm.
supremacy to police ourselves into being better versions of ourselves or growing at a particular pace, but instead to hold space for our evolution, which is not linear, but it's more like the ebb and flow of an ocean.
Yeah.
Over time, the ocean waves will take, a branch off a tree and turn it into driftwood, into a
Mhm.
whole other fucking thing, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And holding space for we are in a time where we are rocks or huge trunks of trees in the ocean, and we are being shaped by the world, and we are shaping the world, right? We are going through this process of evolution that is both slow and fast,
Yeah.
and being kind to ourselves and others in that process, I think is really, really key. The other thing I can say about the astrology of this period is that, Pluto is out of bounds.
Hmm.
And when Pluto is out of bounds, we see things like we're seeing, like, World War stuff, right? We're seeing, like, really big, explosive things,
Yeah.
and the impact that has on our humanity, on the environment, on endless things, on pretty much everything is
Sure.
important to acknowledge.
Mhm.
And within that, there is an invocation. And that invocation is to grasp our humanity and the humanity of others by building community. Build community digitally, as you and I are doing right now.
Yeah.
Build community with your neighbors, with people who are like in your town or whatever.
Mhm.
Build community by being intentional about how you connect with others, how you let them in, and how you show up for them. That's so much of the antidote for so much of the ills of the world, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think, like, all climate movements require us working with each other on purpose together, and
Yeah.
this period, 2026, is it's not our destination. We are in process. We are on a rickety boat on a choppy sea, but
Okay.
we are if we do it together, there is so much more potential accessed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense. Oh, it sounds like this moment requires a lot of grace of ourselves and of others,
Yes.
um, and curiosity and love in order to navigate
Yeah.
all the things
Yeah.
right now. And I
Yeah.
think that's what's required in order for us to figure out solutions to so many of our big challenges in our world. And again, I think it all does also go back to this idea of not allowing ourselves to be numb and really leaning in and seeing things for what they are right now,
Yeah.
no matter how scary it can get, but also figuring out a way to balance that with maintaining one's wholeness and
Yeah.
maintaining, that
But
regulatory system.
I would just, like, add to that, like, back to the question that you asked about values.
Yeah.
Love is a value, and I think that a lot of people don't really recognize that love is a value because love is a motivation and it's a force,
Yeah.
and it's so easy. We're encouraged by, big tech and all this kind of stuff to focus on who we're different from, how we're different from them, who we hate, who our enemy is, and there's value in all those things. But motivating ourselves through the value system of love
Yeah.
sounds hippy dippy, but it's actually fierce and powerful
Yeah.
and requires a great deal of will and emotional intelligence to allow ourselves to focus on our love of the planet, our love of ourselves, our love of others, our willingness to stay in difficult situations out of the love of our own evolution or
Yeah.
even the effort of trying. And the more that we can kind of tap into that with the astrology of this moment, the better. But it's a lot of people just don't think that way or they don't take it seriously. So I just wanted to
Yeah.
like drill down on that with you for a minute because it's so important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are so many ways to show love and to be loved, but I believe that love is an essential part of humanity. And, so many of the horrible and horrific and terrifying things that are happening in this world are due to a lack of love and compassion.
Yes. Yes.
Like there can be no love where there's war, right? Like there's just like all of these things happening. So yeah, love is
I would be
essential.
snapping right now if I had that skill set. I apologize again for not having it. I've never felt so sad that I can't snap. But yeah, I'm emotionally snapping.
No,
I'm
I
also
I
very
feel it. I feel the
okay.
snaps. um, and so we talked a little about Neptune entering Aries.
Mhm.
Can we talk a little bit more about it? Because from what I understand, this doesn't happen very often.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm, mm-mm.
Like every 100 plus years or so.
165 to be exact.
Okay, and 165 years ago, there was some interesting stuff happening in the
Oh my god, it was
US.
really bad. It was a lot of
Yeah,
stuff. It was war, it was an
war.
instability.
Yeah.
Um, I believe the last time that Neptune entered into Aries was the first day of the Civil War, which is not
Yes.
I mean, okay, good, and also, okay, bad, right?
Right.
It's messy and complex. Neptune's transit into Aries is really important news. Um, and it ultimately requires that we as individuals and as a collective take responsibility for our spiritual convictions. If
Hmm.
we care about equality, then we need to act like it.
Yeah.
If we care about the environment, we need to act like it. And how do you do that in a world where everyone's on their phones and their phones are using AI, which, I mean,
Mm.
there's so many layers of the Neptune governs like impossible. It governs things that are not material. It is not your
Okay.
values, it's your ideals, right? And the way
Hmm.
I often describe the difference between Venus values and Neptune ideals is much like the difference between uh lampposts. You walk around at night and there's lampposts, they light up the night
Yeah.
sky
Hmm.
and stars. Also,
Okay.
at night,
Okay.
they light up the night sky. The
Totally.
difference is very few weather patterns are gonna stop you from seeing your values, your lamppost,
Mhm.
but just a little bit of light pollution, just a little bit of cloud cover, you can't see your ideals anymore, you're more
Right.
separated from them.
Wow.
It's really hard to reach one's ideals, but we want them there to guide us. Whereas you can change a light bulb, you might need a ladder, it might be a pain in the butt, it might be
Mhm.
uncomfortable, but you can change your value system,
Yeah.
you can reach your values. Ideals, they're there to guide us, right?
Yeah.
And so
Okay.
Neptune moving into Aries is so much about being guided by principles that we are willing to act on because it's Aries. And
Mm.
noticing how we feel in our bodies when we're out of alignment with our ideals. Not that we're meant to achieve our ideals, but
Right.
when you're guided by them, you're pointed in a direction that's aligned versus, again, always reacting. And so much of life, we're just like put in this position where we're constantly reacting to things.
Yeah.
And Neptune in Aries is an invitation to be intentional about what you're enacting and how you are initiating. And again, pulling from those spiritual convictions,
Yeah.
right? And that
Yeah.
takes, because in my little metaphor, it's nighttime, right?
Mhm.
And when it comes to like the tarot and dream interpretation, nighttime is always related to the unconscious, that which is like really private and personal. And
Right.
so it really does have to do with this period that we're in where we have to look inside. We have to
Mm.
be honest about where we're at, what we can handle in this moment, what we can and can't commit to, and then act and then do something, right? And that something might be communicate to your loved ones, "Oh, I can't go tonight,"
Yeah.
instead of just not showing up,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Because we're all going through this time and we're
Yeah.
all we're all on the rocky waters in the not great ship. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and truth is such an important aspect. And Kimberly Crenshaw calls this moment like we are experiencing a war on truth, right? Like
Mhm,
just this
mhm.
this giant force that is trying to remove truth and fact from reality. And so I think, we are it is imperative that we continue to tell the truth,
Mm,
notice the truth, call out the truth,
mhm.
and seek the truth. Yeah, because
Yeah.
that's what's needed
Because
right
it's the
now.
damn truth. And
Yeah,
also to recognize that, like, sometimes the truth is more painful than the lie we were telling ourselves or the
totally.
thing we misunderstood. And
Yeah.
there are there are lots of truth also, right? We
Mhm,
can
mhm.
look at something like masking out of an abundance of caution with COVID, or
Yep.
because one's immune compromised with COVID, or as an act of community care.
Yeah.
And there are different truths that different individuals will have. And this is where that Neptune in Aries and that Pluto in Aquarius really gets messy because when we center our individuality, we are getting aligned and taking responsibility for ourselves and, being the adults we're meant to be.
Yeah.
And also, we can get into toxic spirituality and toxic individualism and turn away from community care. And so, as we interrogate what the truth is, being able to hold that there are many ways of relating to truth and metabolizing truth. And
Mhm.
ultimately, we have choices to make, right? We
Yeah.
all have choices to make. And recognizing, I was talking to somebody recently about sobriety.
Mm.
And in A, there's this concept of making amends, right?
Mhm.
And so you fucked up, you did some shit, you fucked up, and then you make amends. You say to the person, not "I'm sorry, but I want to make it better. I want to create repair."
Yeah.
And sometimes in our lives, we cannot make amends to a person or a situation, but we make a living amends. We commit to doing better, to being better, to not just having had a situation where we're like, oops, I really messed up, but
Yeah.
instead being able to say, and I will learn from that and I will let it help me grow instead of use it as a tool for self flagellation or for shutting down or giving up, which again is something that happens over time if you don't do the work, and it's
Right.
hard to do the work when you're also trying to survive, right?
Yes. Yeah.
It's the messiness, and so again, the astrology of this moment, we have Saturn and Neptune in Aries, fire, and then we have Uranus, Pluto, and Uranus and Pluto in air signs, right? And
Mhm.
so when you combine fire and air,
More
things
fire.
make
Lots of
havoc.
fire. Oh,
Lots of
yes.
fire.
Oh,
Yeah, it
yes.
just like, right? It
Oh,
takes
yeah.
over. And so
Mhm.
what do we do when there's a big fire? We don't put water on it, we put dirt on it. We put
Yeah.
earth on it. So this
Yeah.
is like the approach now. It's recognizing that we must ground and help each other to ground and to stay connected to here and now and what can I do in this moment? Because otherwise it's just too much. It's just too much
Yeah.
and things get out of control. And
Mhm.
again, this takes some measure of emotional intelligence to be able to sustain. And
Totally.
it's a good struggle to be in with oneself. It's like, how can I
Yeah.
sustain this work?
Totally. And that also leaves room for the imperfection that is like, I don't know, inherent to being human,
Yes.
that
Yes.
we don't give ourselves enough grace for. Like none of us are perfect, and our activism won't be perfect, and the way that we show up in movements won't be perfect, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't still try, and doesn't mean that we shouldn't still be involved. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
It's
definitely.
so important. And again, that's love, right? That's
Yeah,
love. I mean, to me, that just sounds like you're describing the action of love,
totally.
which is great. And I
Yeah.
value it. Yeah.
I do too, quite a
I
bit.
can tell, I can tell, I can tell, yeah.
Yeah. So can you please tell our audience about your podcast, which I am a huge fan of?
You are.
I
Thank you.
am.
Oh, thank you. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So my podcast is called Ghost of a Podcast, and
Mhm.
honestly, it's such a stupid name, but I
No,
didn't
it
think.
works. I
Do
like
you like it?
it. I
Okay, good,
do.
thank you.
Yeah.
I just like, you make a choice. The podcast I started in 2018, so it
Mhm.
was a while ago now, and so, I'm locked in, I'm locked in.
Yeah.
But Ghost of a Podcast is, every Sunday, I drop an episode where I look at the astrology of the week ahead.
Mhm.
So it's like the global mundane astrology and, yeah, just, like, let people know not what it means for your sign, but what the hell is happening and how it's likely to land for you and the people around you and how to use that
Yeah.
information. And then on my midweek episodes on Wednesdays, I do in depth readings for a listener. Often it's astrology, but sometimes it's psychic or it's mediumship or it's animal communication.
Yeah.
And in that, not only am I, like publishing a reading that you can like listen to and, it might be insightful and helpful and entertaining, but also for people who are in helping professions, it's a learning tool. So whether
Yeah.
you're learning how to be an astrologer or how to counsel, my hope is that those episodes really are educational and supportive to those practices. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's my podcast. Um, and I also have a Patreon where I'm like very active and constantly posting and engaging with folks. So it's like a great community I have over there as well.
Amazing. And then you also have some books out right now.
I do. I
Yeah.
do. I
Can you
do. I do.
tell us
Okay.
about your books?
So I have 2 books. One
Mhm.
is a book and the other one's an audiobook. So
Okay.
my bookity book, which is also available as an audiobook, but my
Sure.
book is called Astrology for Real Relationships,
Mhm.
and it is, not just about, heterosexual romantic relationships between 2 cis people. It is inclusive of that, but it is inclusive of all the things. So there's
Awesome.
multiple sections. So there's a section of like being the relationships of being friends, the relationships of like early stages of dating, and then relationships like LTRs, you know what I mean?
Mhm,
Like long-term
mhm.
relationships
Oh,
where you're
yeah.
in it.
Mhm,
And it's expansive of the different ways those relationships can be experienced.
mhm.
And what I basically do is go through all the planets through the signs for each kind of relationship. So you start to get like more of a nuanced
Cool.
understanding of how you function, how the people you're connected to function, and all that kind of good stuff. And then I have an audiobook, which is guided meditations based on the zodiac. And
Amazing.
so that one is not like you wouldn't necessarily listen to Aries because you're an Aries.
Mhm.
You'd be like, oh, I'm trying to like access like my grounding. I'm going to listen to the Capricorn or whatever. Right.
Okay,
Um,
yeah.
that is only available on Audible. And I
Mhm.
think we can speak critically of Amazon with
Yeah.
with clarity,
We
and
should.
also
Yeah.
they commissioned me to write the book, so and so there's the only place you can get it is on Audible.
Yeah, 2 things
Yeah.
can be true at once, right? We've talked
That
about
is what
this
we're holding the space
today.
for, it's cementing
Exactly.
it. So, yeah. So you can get my, Astrology for Real Relationships anywhere, and then you can get my audiobook over on Audible, and I have classes, like webinars and stuff like that for sale on my website, and then
Mhm.
you can learn with me on my Patreon, where I am very active.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And how else would you like to be found
That
on
is
the interwebs?
Those are my favorite places to be found. Social
Okay,
media hurts my brain, but you
real.
you can find me there-ish, ish. I'm mainly on
Yeah,
Instagram,
okay.
and, I do have, like, a lot of stuff on my website, including a free chart drawing tool and a little
Hmm.
I have this free app for iOS. It's called Tiny Spark. I
Tiny
have it
Spark.
embedded in the homepage of my website, and you can also download it. It's a free, app with no ads or anything like that. And
Amazing.
it's just basically like a magic 8 ball, you know what I mean? Like, you just press a
Yeah.
button and it's a magic 8 ball. So you
That's
can
so
play with that.
fun.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's fun, it's cute. I think it's really effective, but it's also, like, fun and cute.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's lots of stuff, there's articles and all kind of good stuff on my website, and that's at lovelanyadoo.com.
Okay.
Another name that I came up with long ago before I realized nobody can spell Lanyadoo. You'll have it hyperlinked, I'm assuming, or
It
something.
sure will be.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah, like, deep in the show notes, we'll have all the things, all the
Thank you.
ways that people can find you.
Thank you.
And so our final question that we love to ask guests is, what is something in the news or in your recent discoveries that has brought you joy lately?
News, not joy. Okay, but hold on, let me get in there. Okay. Um, I know it's recent discovery, right?
Yeah,
Not
it can be
news.
something new you learned, like, it
Okay.
can be anything.
I met my first witch hazel tree.
Hmm.
And have you ever met
Oh,
a witch hazel tree?
I haven't.
Okay, can I just tell you, when you look up the image of a witch hazel tree in bloom, you will be like, "OMG." Her flowers, the inside is like this like burgundy rosette, and the outside
Ooh.
is these weird spindly yellow lines of flower.
Whoa.
Spectacular, but I've learned that her medicine is
Mhm.
in the bark and not the flower, which
I
is
know
also
that.
just really
Yes,
so witchy of
it
her.
is with
I recently met a witch hazel tree, and then I got a witch hazel tree, and I've been, like,
wow.
loving my witch hazel tree, and all of her flowers have like, all the yellow parts of her flowers have just fallen, and I'm left with
Mm.
these, like, dark red rosettes, and they're
Ooh.
just gorgeous, and I'm so excited to get to know this tree,
Wow.
shrub, tree.
Okay,
Yeah.
that is a wonderful recent discovery.
Thank Yeah, it's such a good
Yeah,
one. I
no,
can't even tell you.
that is phenomenal. Where did you first meet this witch hazel tree?
Okay,
Yeah.
so where I live, there is like a horticulture school,
Mhm,
and you can kind of like walk through their gardens. And so I was there in the winter.
mhm.
I guess it was a late winter, and this tree blooms in the late winter. And I was like, had never seen this before. And I've walked by
Wow.
this tree in other seasons, and it just looks like a
Yeah.
tree with
Yeah.
leaves. But in its bloom, it is so spectacular. And I became obsessed. And then I like did all this research into witch hazel, and I was like, how have I never even thought about a witch hazel tree?
Yeah.
Because I love to garden. And then ended up at a garden store, and I'd like to say it was coincidentally, but of course it wasn't. I was thinking
No.
about the tree, and then I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, there she is. She's glorious." And so
Yeah.
I had to procure her, and, yeah, it is magical. Like,
Now you have one.
I'm
Yeah.
so excited for you to look up this tree.
Oh, yeah, I'm excited because yeah, I've never seen it in bloom, so
I mean,
I'm very
it's just like
excited.
witch hazel's like a staple, right? Like, it's a thing we
Right.
use, but it never
Totally.
occurred to me to look it up, and when I mean,
Yeah.
these flowers are glorious.
Oh.
They're glorious, yeah,
I love a fun flower.
I love a fun flower. It's really
Yeah.
like, I moved like, I've been living in the Bay Area, California for 30 years, and I just moved due north, and so
Mhm.
there's so many of the same flowers and
Mhm.
trees but they look really different here. Like they get more
Yeah.
water and they get less heat, so they just look so different. So I've been in this like year plus journey of discovering different plants and how light and water, right, which has been so much of our conversation, is like has
Mhm.
such a profoundly different impact on these same plants. So yeah, it's
Wow.
been really cool.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Wow. Jessica, thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
me on this podcast conversation today. This has just been so rich and so wonderful and so insightful. Yeah, I just really, really, really appreciate your time and sharing your wisdom with us today.
Thank you so much. It's been such a joy. Can I ask you what you have recently learned or what news or thing you've encountered, or am I allowed to turn the tables on you?
I mean, you can. You're the first person to do so. So,
Okay, let's find
congratulations.
out. People need to know. People need to know.
Let's see. Recent discoveries. I'm currently in an era of wedding prep, not for myself. I'm officiating my best friend's wedding in a few months, helping plan the bridal shower. Lots of wonderful things happening in wedding world. And so I think I'm just like discovering all of the joys and not joys of what that experience can be. All of the emotions and experiences that
It's a
that
lot.
encapsulates. Yeah, no, weddings are like one of my all-time favorite things on the whole entire universe. And so, yeah, this is like the joy and honor of a lifetime. So I
That's
really,
wonderful.
that's what I've, yeah.
Congratulations. Is this your
Thank
first
you.
time officiating?
It will be. Yes.
That's
Yes.
really cool.
Yeah.
That's exciting. Well, I'm really glad I
Totally.
asked because
Thank you
it's
for
like
asking.
there's nothing more like spring is springing, the
Yeah.
equinox is blooming than
Right.
officiating people you love meeting each other in love.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. And
we have a
I'm,
theme.
yeah, I'm also just like feeling excited and rejuvenated by the start of spring and the start of Aries season, which, yeah,
Yeah.
I am one of the people who consider it the new year. And
Yeah.
yeah, like excited to set new intentions for 2026 and to, yeah, build routines that will carry me through until next spring. So, yeah.
Love that. I'm so glad I asked.
I'm glad
Look at
to.
us.
Yay. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed and learned something from this episode, please consider leaving us a review, sharing it with at least one friend, and keeping the conversation going by posting about it on social media and tagging us. Make sure that you're following Intersectional Environmentalist on Instagram, YouTube, and Substack so you don't miss any updates. And remember, fighting the climate crisis is a marathon, not a sprint. We need everyone to get involved in a way that feels right for them now more than ever. Our individual positive actions do have power, and they're strengthened when we do them as a collective. I'm your host, Ariel V. King, and thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Joy Report.
Yay!
Yay!
It was awesome. I wanted to clap at
Ah,
the
that
end
was so
again because
great.
I didn't want to shake my friends.